Let me be honest with you. I used to stare at my investment account every single week, watching the number barely move, and I genuinely wondered if I was wasting my time. Like, what is the point of putting money away every month when the balance looks basically the same as it did 6 months ago? If that feeling sounds familiar, stay with me, because what I am about to share completely changed how I think about building wealth. And it starts with something called the 8 to 4-3 rule. Now, before we get into the rule itself, I need to tell you why most people never make it far enough to see compounding actually work. And it comes down to one core problem. Your brain is wired to expect a straight line between effort and reward. You work hard, you get paid. You study, you pass the test. Action equals visible result. But compounding does not operate on that psychology at all. Compounding operates more like a delayed detonation. Nothing dramatic happens for a long time, and then suddenly the numbers start moving in ways that feel almost surreal. The problem is that most people interpret the slow early phase as evidence that it is not working, when in reality that slow phase is not a flaw in the system. It is the system doing exactly what it is supposed to do. The 8 to 4-3 rule gives you a mental framework to understand why that is. And more importantly, it gives you the patience architecture to actually survive the boring years long enough to reach the explosive ones. So here is how the 8 to 4-3 rule breaks down. Think of your compounding journey as 3 distinct psychological and financial phases. The first phase is the 8 years. During this stretch, you are the engine. Your regular contributions are doing the bulk of the heavy lifting. The growth you see feels modest, because your invested amount has not yet reached the kind of critical mass needed to generate serious momentum on its own. But here is the thing about those 8 years. They are not wasted. You are accumulating shares. You are building the foundation. You are becoming the kind of person who does not quit when the scoreboard looks boring. That psychological transformation is worth just as much as the financial one. The second phase is the next 4 years. This is where something shifts. Your contributions and your returns start working as a genuine team. The money you put in years ago has now had enough time to grow meaningfully, and it begins to contribute alongside your new deposits in a real and noticeable way. The monthly growth starts surprising you. You start to see single months that add more to your balance than weeks of your own investing used to. This is the phase that makes people feel like they suddenly got smarter about money. They did not. They just stayed consistent long enough to get here. Then comes the final 3 years of the framework. Phase 3. This is where the whole thing starts to feel almost unfair in the best possible way. The returns generated by your existing balance begin to outpace your own contributions. The money is now doing more work than you are. You have gone from being the sole worker to being the manager of a machine that generates value while you sleep, while you are at work, while you are watching this video. That is the moment the compounding story stops feeling like a slow grind and starts feeling like a completely different financial reality. Now, here is where it gets practical, because understanding a concept intellectually is very different from actually staying the course through 8 years of quiet, undramatic progress. The number one reason people never reach phase 2 or phase 3 is not lack of money. It is lack of a system that keeps them invested during the boring stretch. So let me give you 3 things that actually work. First, stop tracking your portfolio in dollars during the early years and start tracking shares. Dollars fluctuate wildly based on market sentiment and can feel deeply discouraging when the market pulls back. Shares only go up when you buy more. When you reframe a market dip as an opportunity to buy more pieces of your investment at a discount rather than watching your balance shrink, the emotional experience of investing completely changes. Write your share count somewhere physical. A note card, a whiteboard, anywhere you can see it regularly. The point is that your scoreboard finally shows the truth about your early progress, which is accumulation, not yet acceleration. Second, attach your investing habit to a life trigger that already exists, rather than tying it to your paycheck, or your mood, or your motivation level. Maybe it is your morning coffee ritual. Maybe it is the moment you sit down at your desk. Maybe it is right after you park your car at home in the evening. Same cue, same action, every single time. Investing should not require willpower. It should be as automatic as locking your front door. Third, and this one sounds almost too simple, make quitting feel expensive. Create a small accountability mechanism with someone in your life. Tell them that if you sell your investments during a market panic, you owe them something. It sounds ridiculous, but it works, because it inserts a tiny pause between the emotional impulse to bail and the actual action of bailing. That pause is often all you need to let the rational part of your brain take back control. Now, if you are watching this and thinking, okay, I understand the concept, but I want a structured roadmap that walks me through exactly how to build this kind of wealth systematically, with someone guiding the process and a community doing it alongside you, then I want to tell you about the Wealth Accelerator Academy. It is a group coaching program and course designed specifically to help you move from knowing about financial concepts like the 8-4-3 rule to actually implementing a personalized strategy that accelerates your path to financial freedom. The link is in the description below. Go check it out. It could genuinely be the decision that changes your financial trajectory. Back to where we are in the journey. Here is what the 8-4-3 rule ultimately teaches us about the psychology of wealth building. Most people quit somewhere in years 5 or 6, which if you look at the framework, means they are walking away right before the most critical transition happens. They have done the hard part. They have built the foundation. They have developed the habit. And then they pull the plug just before the machine starts running on its own. That is the quiet tragedy of most people's financial stories. The early years are not supposed to feel exciting. They are supposed to feel normal, routine, almost boring. That is not a sign you are failing. That is a sign the process is working as designed. When you genuinely internalize that truth, investing stops being something you do with enthusiasm during the good months and abandon during the rough ones. It becomes something you do the way you breathe, consistently, without drama, regardless of how the world feels that week. Think about it this way. A broad index fund is essentially owning a small piece of thousands of companies simultaneously. You are not betting on one business to survive. You are betting on the overall forward progress of human economic activity over time. And historically, over long enough time horizons, that has been a remarkably reliable bet. Not perfect, not without volatility, but reliable. The magic is not picking the right stock. The magic is staying in the game long enough for the compounding math to do what it is mathematically designed to do. So what do you do starting today? Stop waiting for a moment when investing feels exciting, or obvious, or perfectly timed. Start small if you need to. The amount matters far less in the early years than the consistency. Pick a diversified investment vehicle you can commit to for the long term. A broad market index fund is the straightforward starting point most financial educators point to because of the built-in diversification. Set up your trigger system so the habit requires zero willpower. Track your share count rather than your dollar balance. And most crucially, commit to yourself that you will not restart the clock. Every year you stay in is a year of compounding that cannot be replaced. And if you want to go deeper and build a genuinely complete financial freedom strategy, not just the investment piece, but the full picture, including income growth, debt elimination, and wealth protection, the Wealth Accelerator Academy is the place to do that. The link is sitting right in the description. Seriously, take 2 minutes and explore what is inside. The people already in that program are building something real. Now, the reason I want you to subscribe to this channel is not some generic reason about more great content coming your way. It is because you just sat through a real, practical breakdown of one of the most important wealth-building frameworks you can understand. And the content on this channel continues at exactly that level of depth and usefulness every single week. If this video gave you a new way of seeing your financial journey, subscribing means you will not miss the next shift in perspective that could matter just as much. Compounding is not slow. The version of you that quits is slow. The version of you that stays is unstoppable. Now go build the engine and let it run. See you in the next one.